Hello and welcome to another episode of my sound design tutorial series. Noah the Boy here. This time, I'm going to be walking you through how I create and expand a melody, namely a bass line. So right here, I've recorded a simple 4-note bass line. It's 2 measures long, and we're going to take this and expand it to be 16 measures. And I'm going to be showing you some MIDI note effects and then some other MIDI effects, and then we're going to freeze and flatten the bass line and do some audio manipulation to demonstrate how you can take these 2 bars and turn into 16 bars of dynamic evolving melody. So starting off, I went in and recorded a simple melody, and I'm going to play it for you here. And we start at B, we finish at B, we go B to F sharp to F, up to C, and down to B. So we have a little movement down, we go, 1 note above the root note, and then we finish at the root note. So, this melody is already balanced. It starts somewhere and it finishes at that similar place, but then it travels on a little journey. So first thing that I'm going to do, and I think this is really important with breaking out of a loop, is to immediately duplicate it. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to duplicate it right here. I'm going to be trying to create some call and response between these 2 bars and then the second 2 bars. So right here, we can take a look, and let's grab these first 3 notes. Now, we could think about adding in more notes, but I think we should keep it simple and just work with what we have. So right here, I'm going to take these 3 notes, and if you go down to these note effects, we have a few different options, and I'm going to try the invert. And all the invert does is it takes the 3 notes and the values, and it just flips the values. So this note right here will become the lowest, and this low note down here will become the highest. So if we invert it, boom, you can see the 2 notes swap place and the F stays in the middle. So this can be a really good way to work within the construct of the notes that you already have. And so now if we play it, so now we're getting a little variation. And so I'm going to take a look at the rest of this, these second 2 bars here. And maybe we'll take these notes and let's just go shift and up. So we'll go up an octave. And then actually maybe let's have this last note. Yeah, let's have that go back down. So that's at B0. So now we have adhering to my main rule is to continue to move on. So we're going to take these 4 bars and duplicate it again to make 8. So looking at the second set of 4 bars, I'm immediately looking at what I can change in here to create some call and response with this second half. So maybe let's take these first the first 2 bars of this section, and maybe let's take the notes, and you see here we also have the reverse, so that can be kind of cool for just switching up the order of the notes. So we're getting some interesting bleeding. So maybe what I'm going to start doing now is, so I like the C here. Let's take this F0, or this F sharp 0 rather, and bump it up an octave, and and let's take this F0 and maybe have this go up 2 octaves. So, almost. Maybe turn this F to C. And, continuing with this call and response, I'm going to look at this section here, and let's take this and go down 6 semitones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's actually at F. So we wouldn't even have to exit this fold. So it's really nice to have the fold enabled, if you have a number of notes that you've already laid in that work. So already here, maybe taking these 2 notes and So this is super awesome. So we can either half or we can double the segment BPM. So you can make the notes longer or shorter. So here I'm going to make these 2 notes longer, and I'm going to bring these a little forward, and let's see how this sounds. Okay, it actually sounds better with those notes removed. Ooh, and let's have this maybe go down to -1, and let's have this F sharp go all the way up the octaves now. Now we could go and duplicate that again. And now we're at 16 measures. And once again, I'm going to look at the second set of 4 here and see what we can do to continue that call and response. So maybe, we have this repetition every time, where notes are moving at the beginning of each of these 4 bars. So maybe for this second set, have fewer notes. And then right here, where we'd have a sustained note, we could go, there we go. So I'm just consolidating all of them so that we have all of the notes in the section. Now when I hit fold, we can kind of mess around. So I'm going to take this note and maybe go down to the F and have this one go up to the B. And then, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy and paste. So we have 2 sets. Let's go up 6 semitones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we're going to have some harmony right here. And so let's listen to how that sounds. That's almost there. Maybe. There we go. So I'll let these notes hit individually, but I kind of liked those intervals. So now we have. That was sounding cool, but maybe it sounds better down the octave. So let's try it here. And I'm just going to even out these notes. So now we have, it can be nice to combination of like overlapping these notes, because in this case we're going to get a little bleed. And in a similar way, maybe we'll put up a step there, and then the F. So that's like the 6th. That's a nice interval right there. So now addressing this last set of 4 bars here, I'm going to take this first spot here and let's just go up the octave and invert it again. So, ooh, and maybe we'll shorten the C there and we'll let the B, since this is like the root note, let's have this go out a little bit further. So now, might be better down an octave or 2. But let's just remove this note so we have a little space, because otherwise this melody is pretty sustained. So it's nice to have little moments where we're taking away sound. So probably I might do that to another part in this melody as well. So now let's take it. Maybe this last note here, I'm just going to put at the B0 because I liked how that was sounding. So if you try this out, with these overlapping notes, like I have right here, and you don't get that kind of bleeding. It could be that you have like glide on, or it's a mono synth, because like if I went into Serum here and I turned it so it was mono, and I turned the portamento up so they turn the glide up, we get a slightly different effect actually with some of these notes. So instead of harmony, we get some interesting glides. So let's actually take a listen to that. So, depending on if you have glide on or off, it'll give you a significantly different sound. So in this case, I maybe want the glide up, but I want to turn the mono off because I was kind of liking where we were getting those chords a little bit. So now with the glide up, but the mono turned off. So now we have 16 measures, and you could put drums under it, and it would be a pretty interesting and moving bass line. But let's take it one step further. So we could do a number of things, and I would probably start freezing and flattening it. But before we do that, I'm going to go to the MIDI effects, and let's throw an arpeggiator onto it. I'm going to choose the ubiquitous preset. We could just start with the arpeggiator and work, but I kind of like how this is set up. And, maybe this works for, an auxiliary synth line, so maybe it wouldn't be the bass line itself. But because right now, if we play it, it's a little much. So we could go and adjust the gate here. That's a little overwhelming, so maybe adjust the rate. Increase the gate, that'll increase the sustain, because if we turn the gate all the way down. So that can be pretty cool with getting a couple different versions, of the bass line. And something that's kind of cool is turning the distance to 0. So now we're just getting a repetition. So versus we could use this arpeggiator on like a second line. So sometimes we'll take the exact same, bass line and duplicate it. And then let's have this one go up maybe 2 octaves or something. And in this case, let's turn that distance back to 12 for now. So it'll be going up an octave there. Now adjusting that gate. If we combine that with the original bass line, actually, let's go ahead and turn off the arpeggiator on this top one, and maybe increase the rate and increase the gate. And I'm actually going to turn off the low end here, so we're just going to have a high passed top for this arpeggiator. And now I'm going to mix it down a little bit. And we could do something where we start with the rate a lot slower and it speeds up over the course of the 16 bars. So we're continuing with that call and response, that building variation, that adding movement to this melody. So now when we play it, now that we have this, what I'm going to do is duplicate and turn off the original one. And why I'm doing this is because I'm going to be freezing and flattening this line, and I want to keep the original synth for if I want to go back and make some additions. You know, there's nothing worse than when you've frozen flattened every track and then you want to go back and you can't. So I'm going to mute that top line just for a little bit. So now dealing with this bass line, we're going to freeze. We're going to freeze and flatten this. You know, it's already a dynamic bass line. We have some different intervals, different combinations of the notes. So maybe right here, so before we go back, you know, to start this second set of 2, we could take here and let's just try transposing it up 12 semitones. And then maybe these first few hits we paste out, so we kind of repeat it. So now, you know, we've had a little freak out moment here. Let's go maybe down here to this more sustained section. Ooh, let's take this little spot. So I'm just going to consolidate, so now we're only dealing with that particular audio chunk. So maybe reversing it, and let's increase that segment BPM, so we're stretching it out. And messing around with this grain size is crucial. You'll get so many cool different options. So let's turn the transpose up here. And we could go, and I'm going to hit this E and go to the envelopes and choose the transportation modulation. And let's actually have this go down 12 semitones before the next part comes in. So maybe make it a little more gradual. So I'm going to hit Alt and just adjust that curve. So I'm going to repeat this right here. And then the second one, let's try maybe going up 12 semitones and keeping it on beat mode. Now, what we choose here for the preserve will depend on the sound, but let's take a listen. Ooh. So let's go maybe to an eighth. Go transients. Oh. Ooh, I like that the 6 semitones up on the complex. So, and let's do one more adjustment. Maybe this last one right here. Let's take it and reverse it. So I'm quartering the segment BPM. So we're squishing it, and then I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do some repeated chops here. There we go. Because that's a nice, that would kind of carry us into this next section. So now if we listen to the 16 bars. So I'm almost happy with that. I was listening for here, and I think it could sound really good with the transposition up an octave. So let's listen to these two R's. Almost. Maybe go into texture mode. Let's expand it out there. Maybe instead of doing an octave, we'll stretch out this segment BPM. I'm liking how that sounds. So let's take the next little measure right after this. Well, the quarter note in there. And consolidate it. And then maybe let's do some transportation modulation in this as well. So let's have it do a nice little bass swing there. Oh, and we're going to have to change it to complex so we can hear it. There we go. So now let's listen to this, and let's put in that harmony line on top, the arpeggiated version of that. So now we have... So now I'm just going and editing some of these MIDI notes to let those bass parts breathe a little more. So we'll cut it out there. And then we're cutting it there. And now I'm going to go back to this MIDI part. Maybe let's adjust the steps. Let's set this distance to be 6. Now let's listen to the entire section. So the notes are sounding okay, but the rate's sounding off. So I'm going to go and drop this down. So we're going to start with the rate being much quicker. Yes, the move was definitely lowering that gate. So there you have it. I took that simple 2 measures of melody and expanded it to 16 bars. And then we duplicated it and kind of created some harmony on top. So I hope you found this helpful. Let me know in the comments section below what topics you'd like to see me cover next in future sound design tutorials. I've seen all of your suggestions so far, and I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can. Well, until next time, I'm Nowhere the Boy. I hope you have an excellent morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of the day it is. I hope you have an excellent time, and keep on making those beats.